Hey, you guys, I wanted to come on here and give my commentary on a famous social media mogul by the name of Dhar Mann. If you don't know who he is, he's renowned in the social media world for creating videos generally depicting people in a multitude of different situations and scenarios, ranging from homelessness to health ailments, socioeconomic status, etc., etc. And in most of his videos, he normally will present a situation to the viewer watches the video, and throughout the video he sets an emotionally driven atmosphere for the viewer to indulge themselves in, because in some videos they are meant to submerge you in melancholy, or you may become apoplectic at the thought of one's actions in his videos, yada yada yada. So now that you have a small idea of what he does, we can now get into the problem he has specifically with the portrayals of black people in his short skits. A disclaimer before I get into this: I am aware that this social media personality uses other people for his skits, and I know he tries to be inclusive and make it so that anyone can face these problems, but I am speaking on this because of the betrayal of black people in his videos. I'm not talking about anybody else, and this is a black channel, so if you don't like it, please show yourself the door. Now, in this picture that you see here, you see a picture of a black woman, and I don't want to play the video because YouTube could possibly strike this video for copyright infringement, but what I want to do is I'm going to tell you instead what happens in this video. So the synopsis is this black woman is speaking to her daughter. The daughter desperately wants to see the father. And as the story goes on, we see that the mother has been withholding the daughter from the father because she demands more money from him. We see that he tells his side of the story. He's completely exhausted from work and has not been able to see his daughter in months. She is impervious to his benevolent pleas and says that if she can't get more money from him, then she'll never be able to allow the father to see the daughter. So the mother overhears this and has to tell her own daughter she had to struggle because in the past the girl's father didn't want to support them financially or emotionally. So the mother worked two jobs, we see. Then the daughter, after hearing this revelation, she has a change of heart. Meanwhile, the father is at his job. He tries to ask his employer if he can have permission to get more overtime, but the boss says no. Then, surprise, the mother shows up with their daughter, and everybody is so happy and understanding, and then the video ends. Okay, so this is my problem with this, and I'm trying to understand why is it that this narrative only seems to be prevalent amongst us? Why does it seem like that with these other races of people? It seems to not be a monolith in the sense that black people are a monolith. Now, I know some of you may say that I'm reaching here or it's not that deep considering that the story has a deep moral meaning to it. Okay. But my thing is this: you guys may not understand the hidden messages within the story, but I do. Think about why it is that black people were used for this story. Do you not understand that by this portrayal being shown here, that it is reinforcing the negative stereotype within our community that black women are vindictive, they're manipulative and vengeful for the way their ex treated them. Therefore, they use the children as some sort of leverage. And I'm so tired of this cliched narrative where it seems like our people and their dysfunctions are exploited to the world, and we don't think it's a big deal because, oh, he had a sad theme to it, or because there was a lesson to be learned at the end of it. And it's like, no, you guys have to learn how to think critically and realize whenever somebody is actually giving you a backhanded compliment. So this man Dhar Mann, to me, he seems to have some racial views. I mean, he seems to think that black people, I guess, according to his perspective of them, he seems to think that, basically black people are every stereotype that's been put out there by Western civilization based on the situations he places the black actors and actresses in. He basically sees us as poor, dysfunctional, controlling at times, and apparently dumb too for us not being able to see through his facade. So basically what you're telling me is that a white family couldn't have done this scenario. Don't they also have degenerate behavior in their community? Like, I'm confused. But I mean, I guess it's all right to use them, but only in subtle situations. It's like, yeah, the friend zone, the meaning of hard work, the rich mom leaves behind millions. Okay, so let me ask you guys this. Why couldn't the black people be used for that scenario? See, sometimes you have to look at the coded language behind a person's actions. What they don't say is usually what matters most. And by putting this out here and associating the black actors and actresses with degenerate situations, He's basically stating, I see black people in these scenarios the most because I believe in the negative connotations attached to them. Therefore, I will try and reinforce and fortify this by creating a visual stimulus in which they will be in these compromising situations. But I'm going to put this blanket of morality over it with some emotional value so you don't easily notice it. But see, this is the thing. I actually see right through this nonsense. I mean, and the thing about it is he has other videos, as you guys can see from these other ones here. I mean, look at this one. It says, poor dad can't buy birthday cake. Stranger changes his life forever. Now, I actually watched this one briefly, and this one is really a slap in the face because it was the white savior narrative within it. And look at this, more coded language, poor man. I mean, basically, he's telling you guys through his message that he thinks that black people are poor or they're homeless, and the only way they can get some kind of respite is if someone from the dominant society comes along and saves the day. And it's like, no, I see right through you, and you are very transparent to me. This is something that can easily go over the heads of a lot of our people. But for me, I see this man for who he is. Now, another thing before you all try to come on here and say, oh, but he uses black people for his skits so he can't be racist. Look, I'm really going to need for you guys to start learning to think analytically and with some proficiency, because just because a person uses black people in a line of work doesn't mean they don't have racial tendencies and ideologies. I mean, we can even look at the presidents past and present. A significant portion of them were racist, but they still used us as necessary. It's the same thing, but just with different occupations. Now, look at this one. It says, homeless mom gives up her baby. You'll never guess what happens next. So, I mean, basically just more of the same thing, more coded language. So you guys can see he is basically stating that he sees black people on a lower scale in terms of socioeconomic status, and he perpetuates racism indirectly. This to me would actually be an example of covert racism, which is racism toward a group of people, but like in a subtle manner or through means of like a coded language. And so when I say things like pay attention to what's not being said, this is what I mean. Pay attention to the actions of those who subjugate and oppress you, or the ones who show the worst qualities of your people. This man is indicative of that. And I wish I could really show you guys this video, but again, I don't want to risk getting my channel flagged for copyright. But let's just go ahead and look at this last one. So it says here, husband cheats on wife with her friend. He instantly lives to regret his decision. So with this one, basically, he is pointing out the very negative stereotype that black men are cheaters. Now, let me be clear here. Is there a faction of black men in our community who aren't faithful? Absolutely. Is that the entirety of black men? No. Also, why couldn't a white or Asian couple be used for this skit? Do you guys see what I'm talking about? Like the level of dysfunction, at least in terms of the highest magnitude, seems to always be associated with black people. But when it comes to everybody else, they deal with simple issues that are typically easy fixes, but with our community, he uses the most common stereotype associated with the black community. And he tries to pass it off as this moral, ethical, and providence-filled story where we can all learn from it, despite the fact that our flaws are being exploited to the world to see. And the thing about all of this is that you don't even have to be versed in psychology to really understand the hidden messages. You just have to learn to think about what's not being said. And if that seems like I'm saying to overanalyze, then yes, because when it comes to a story that's being told about your people from someone who doesn't look like you, then that should immediately make a red flag go off in your mind. Like, he doesn't come from our community. How can he tell a story about a situation everybody goes through by using actors and actresses that look like us? So anyways, those are my thoughts on this situation. I found it very interesting. I think that this man is probably someone who has some racial views. Instead, he'll give you this concealment or smoke screen acting as if he's the paradigm of virtue, but judging from his works, I beg to differ. Anyways, let me know your thoughts on this man. Do you think this is something too far to look into, or do you think this man has some racial views? Like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. Thank you guys so much for your support, and I'll see you in the next one.